Good morning and welcome to the Daily Summation on Kurt's Religion and Politics. I'm Kurt. I'm your host for today. Today is Saturday, October the 17th of 2020. So we're basically a little bit more than halfway through the month of October. Hope you're having a good day today. Hope you're having a good weekend. Glad to have you aboard. Glad to have the folks who are on YouTube and Rumble looking in, and definitely glad also to have the folks who happen to be paying attention to the podcast doing that as well. I know that probably very few people know that the podcast is there at this point, and I've got some work to do in order to sort of build that whole thing up. Today, we're going to talk about the idea of foreign interference, and we're particularly talking about in the political process of various countries. And I wanted to bring up something that I hadn't really pointed out in the blog post that this video is based on. What I wanted to point out is that most of the time, the most effective way for one country to interfere in the political process of another country is not through its populace at large. You can make the argument that they can do that by fomenting revolution of various kinds, right? That, in that sense, you can make the argument that it's through the people that happens. But for the most part, what countries do is actually meddle in the affairs of the government in one sense or another. So there's one instance in which supposedly one country decided that it was one of the people who was in political power in that country supposedly decided that he was going to get the primary prosecutor for another country fired. Reasons aside, that's meddling in that country's internal affairs and really is something that shouldn't be happening. And by the way, I want to point that out. One of the things about meddling in the affairs of other countries is, generally speaking, I don't support it. It's not something I support. It's not something I think is a great idea. It's not something I think that one country should do to another country. So I just wanted to point that out to begin with. That said, it happens, and I'm not going to say that it happens as well. It actually does probably happen as frequently today on a sort of a more muted basis than it used to. It used to be very common for one country to tromp into another country and take the country over. One of the points that Noam Chomsky points out in one of his books, in the Understanding Power of the Indispensable Chomsky, is that this is the sort of thing that happened in Korea. You could argue this was the sort of thing that happened in Vietnam. You could argue, right? I don't really agree that that's exactly what did happen there. But this is, for example, what the former Soviet Union tried to do in Afghanistan when they were involved in that whole thing. But the point is, most foreign meddling occurs with one government acting in ways that affect another government, and indirectly that affects the people, and indirectly the people get involved. But the reality is that it's government to government most of the time that happens, unless you're talking about trying to get a revolution or cause the people to try and vote for a particular thing. But I want to point something out. Other than propagandizing, which is almost always there has to be some element of truth. It may be skewed, it may be messed with, right? But there has to be something that foments unrest in the people of a given country. And if there isn't that, then generally you're not going to be successful propagandizing. And the thing about it is, when you are successful propagandizing, one of the funny things about it is, most of the time what happens, except for things like leaflets, is you work from outside the country to do that, and there's a reason for that, and it is, regardless of what some people would like to believe, you can't do it inside the country, and so you just don't. Instead, you work outside of the country. So in South Korea, the United States had been, I don't know if they still are, broadcasting news and various commentary and things about North Korea and so forth over radio airwaves. And if you want to know what happens as a result of that, the people are forbidden to have radios, so it's not really a thing, and TVs lots of times, so it's not really a thing. And so that's, but here's the thing: whether you like it or not, as a rule, there are a couple of realities. One is that the country that is being messed with in terms of their politics, internal politics, is typically run by a tyrannical government. The government is tyrannical in nature. People will argue to the contrary. I'm sorry to tell you this. They are incorrect for the most part. So that's the first thing that's typically true. The next thing that's typically true is the government in the country that is having other entities meddle in their politics and so forth. And again, it's not usually directly in the politics. Usually it's foreign policy decisions made by other countries, can be messed with in that way, because if somebody says something like, well, we're not going to do business with you anymore, they don't have a leg to stand on. And sometimes that it's truly because they've been through war or whatever, but lots of the time they're supposed to be a sufficiently stable entity to be doing things for themselves. Yet if you look at a country like North Korea, well, they're boxed off from the rest of the world. Yes, but internal to themselves, what are they doing to make things better? And I'm not just talking about political decisions here. I'm talking about what are they doing in manufacturing. I'm talking about what are they doing in in education. Excuse me. What are they doing in education? What are they doing in bettering the lives of their people? What things are they doing? And again, frankly, what government does best when it comes to bettering the lives of their people is take their hands off. Now, I'm not saying that that's always true. You know that there are instances where you have to do things. So, for example, I point out that in the United States way of looking at things, you've got these three things: life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Well, if you don't have liberty, the pursuit of happiness is typically somewhat moot as a point. And if you don't have life, hey, guess what? Liberty and the pursuit of happiness, they're both not anything because you're not alive. So you've got to do a certain amount. The government has to do a certain amount of managing the people, if you will, because there are going to be people who are going to do things that are going to be problematic for other people when they do what they do. So I get that there's a certain amount of government influence necessary, and there's a certain amount, you could argue, necessary in business, and I think, frankly, that government does a better job than unions, not by much, but a little bit. But here's the thing. If a country is in such a state that another country saying we're going to embargo you, or even the countries around them saying we're all going to embargo you, then that they fall into horrible poverty, then there's a problem inside that country. Excuse me, that country. Okay, not company, country. I started one way, and of course that's not correct. Okay, so for example, let's look at Israel. Okay, I'm not saying that things are anything like perfect in Israel, but there's this attitude in Israel that says we support one another, we do for one another, and what we do ends up being beneficial. And the countries around them, they're not horrible countries necessarily. Some of them are not really at all great, but they're not. They may not be horrible countries, but guess what? They're not. They're not typically highly prosperous nations. And there are a number of reasons for that. Well, you can say, well, sanctions are one of them. Yeah, it's true, but what's actually happening inside the country is a bigger deal. So the point I'm making here is, when you think about the idea of foreign interference, you may think that it's such a horrible thing, but the truth is the reason a lot of foreign entities, a lot of countries particularly, are able to interfere in the politics of other countries is that those other countries are shaky at best in terms of their internal politics. And that's an important realization. Put another way, countries like the United States have what amount to successful systems. Are they always successful? No. Do they always do what needs to be done? No. But on the other hand, if you look at what they're actually doing, most of the time the standard of living is sufficiently high that it's almost impossible to foment revolution in the United States in any meaningful way. You'll have small groups that'll do that. But my point is, in these other countries, that's not the case. What's happening in those other countries is that they are sufficiently unstable, that the standard of living is sufficiently low, that those other countries can expect to have people in their countries who are extremely dissatisfied with what's going on. All right, I'm running out of time, and so I'm going to go ahead and end this video very quickly here. I just wanted to again wish you a good day. Hope your Saturday is a good one. Hope the rest of your weekend is a good time. I hope the week to come is a good week to come for you. And I wanted also to express my condolences to Dan Bongino again for the fact that he learned that he actually is dealing with cancer at this point, and hope that the treatment regimen that they put him on is a good one, and that things end up in a positive way all the way around. And I'm praying for him and his family, and I hope you'll do the same too. And again, that's something you should do for everybody. Okay, you have a great day, and we will see you tomorrow. Hopefully that will be the 18th of October, Sunday, 2020, and hopefully we'll see you then. You have a wonderful day. Thanks for watching this video. Remember that you can like the video on YouTube, and you can give me a rumble on Rumble if you want to do that. Of course, you can also subscribe to my channel on both YouTube and Rumble. The channel would be Kurt's Religion and Politics. If you want to see more of my content, you can go to various places. The first of those places would be my blog. That's blogs.kpschubert.com. blogs.kpschubert.com. If you want to follow me on Twitter, Parler or Minds.com, you can look for my handle. I am at kpschubert. That is at kpschubert. You can also see my Facebook page. That also is Kurt's Religion and Politics. I have obviously a YouTube and a Rumble account. My page, my channels on those accounts, pages, channels, whatever you want to call them, is Kurt's Religion and Politics. I have also, if you want to support me, a Patreon account. I am Kurt's Religion and Politics there. Thank you for looking at my stuff. Remember, you can subscribe. Remember, you can click notifications on the YouTube to make sure you're notified for new content. Again, thanks for coming to visit my channel. Thanks for watching this video, and you have a great day.